Shalom and good evening. This is TV7 Israel News broadcasting to you from Jerusalem. And in today's headlines, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu calls on the P5+1 to review other ways to reach a so-called good deal in the nuclear negotiations with Iran. Amnesty International calls on the international community to stop neglecting and tackle the dire need of Syrian refugees. A new report reveals the Islamist Hamas leadership, which controls the Gaza Strip, is inclined to accept a proposal to establish a 5-year truce with Israel. Cypriot top diplomat Foreign Minister Ioannis Kasolides said his country thwarted a plot by the Islamist group Hezbollah, Iran's Lebanese proxy, to attack Israelis or Jews in the Mediterranean island. A 26-year-old man with a dual nationality from Lebanon and Canada was arrested by Cypriot security forces after they discovered a massive amount of ammonium nitrate, which is used as material to create bombs, in the basement of his home in Larnaca. When asked in an interview on the matter, the Cypriot foreign minister said he cannot elaborate on the information as it might damage the prosecution case.
Well, first of all, I want to say that you have very good information yourselves. Secondly, this case may probably go in a couple of days in front of the courts. Therefore, I am not permitted to making any comments or assumptions because this may damage the prosecution case.
I see.
But your information that you mentioned is correct.
Hezbollah officials in the Lebanese capital Beirut could not immediately be reached for comment. Meanwhile, Foreign Minister Kasolides also confirmed rumors which first surfaced in mid-2014 that Western jihadists seeking to join the Islamic State of Iraq and Levant were using Cyprus as a transit point to Turkey by arriving in government-controlled areas of the island, then heading into the Turkish-held north, and from there on to Syria. Authorities were aware of a few cases where prospective fighters volunteering for ISIL may have used Cyprus as a route to the insurgent group's Middle East fiefdoms. He noted, however, that authorities had stepped up screening process, particularly with European passport holders, in order to cut off such a route.
There were a few incidents of this route, very few, but for this reason we have taken all additional measures of vigilance, particularly with European passport holders, in order to cut off such a route.
Cyprus, which lies on the European Union's southeastern flank, has steered clear of the upheaval in the Middle East, even though it is less than 150 kilometers away from Syria. Its last major security incident was a bomb attack against the Israeli embassy in Nicosia in 1988 that killed 3 people. In related news, Cypriot President Anastasiades, who is on an official visit to Israel, met with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu at his residence in Jerusalem. In a joint press briefing, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu reiterated the dangers the Islamic Republic of Iran poses to the region and called on the P5+1, which consists out of the United States, Russia, China, France, Britain, and Germany, who are representing the international community in the nuclear negotiations with Tehran, to consider the implications of a bad deal and review other ways to reach a so-called good deal with Iran.
I said the word, I use the word security because it is very concrete. It's not abstract. We are suffering from terrorism in this region. A lot of this terrorism in the region and beyond the region is fomented by Iran, that along with its henchmen in Hezbollah, they operate a worldwide terrorism network of over 30 countries in 5 continents. And you in Cyprus have already suffered 3 terrorist plots, including the recent uncovering of an apartment with an enormous amount of ammonium nitrate, a very dangerous explosive. So we are all, we have a common stake in battling this terrorism. I mentioned Iran because President Rouhani said the other day that Iran has had so far a great victory in the negotiations with the P5+1. If Iran wins, the world loses. And indeed, it's not too late. It's not too late to prevent Iran from having an agreement that paves its way to the bomb, that will give it immediately $40 to $50 billion of cash for its terrorist networks and its aggression in the region, and ultimately hundreds of billions of dollars that it will use for its plans of aggression and conquest. I believe that the P5+1 can get a better deal, and certainly should have no deal if it's a bad deal, and this is a very bad deal. But given Iran's aggression in the region, given its terrorism in the Middle East, in our area and beyond, I think that the nuclear deal should be should tie the lifting of restrictions on Iran's nuclear program to a change in Iran's behavior, and the lifting of sanctions to a different attitude on the part of Iran. I think this will be good for everyone in the Middle East. It'll be good for the world.
Now to Israel's northern neighbor. The 4-year war in Syria, according to the United Nations, has thus far killed more than 220,000 people, injured more than 1 million, driven 4 million out of the country as refugees, and left 12.2 million others in need of humanitarian aid, including 5.6 million children. Amnesty International published its report on Syrian refugees under the title Global Refugee Crisis, a Conspiracy of Neglect, at a news conference in Beirut.
Now, given the exceptional crisis situation, it would be reasonable to expect the international community to organize an exceptional response. Sadly, the response of the international community has been dismal and disappointing. 86% of those who have been displaced and who are refugees are living in developing countries, facing serious hardships when they live in those countries, because many of those countries are themselves poor or middle income and cannot afford to host these refugees. 95% of Syrian refugees are hosted in the neighboring countries, particularly Turkey, Lebanon, Jordan, Iraq.
The Amnesty International Director General called on the international community to resettle the refugees in locations with better conditions that will assist in improving their living conditions.
Fundamentally, we are calling for the number of refugees which the UN has asked to be resettled, which is over 1 million refugees are in urgent need, and we are calling on the international community to resettle them at the rate of 300,000 a year for the next 4 years. We're calling for a global refugee fund to be created. We're calling for an international summit, an urgent international summit to be held. And we're calling for this to happen now. The world can't wait any longer.
Now to other news. According to a report by the Palestinian daily Al-Quds, the Islamist Hamas leadership, which controls the Gaza Strip, is inclined to accept a proposal by Qatar to establish a 5-year truce with Israel. The Hamas leadership convened last night in the Qatari capital of Doha to formulate a final response to the proposal. As part of the understandings, a floating seaport is supposed to be built off the Gaza shore, but the discussions on building an airport in Gaza will be postponed for the time being. Thank you for watching us. You can also watch us at TV7israelnews.com or TV7.fi. For any comments, please send your emails to israelnews@tv7.fi. For more updates from Israel and the region, please join our Facebook page at TV7 Israel News. Praying for the peace of Israel and the peace of Jerusalem. I'm Jonathan Hassan. Have an Erev Tov, and we will see you again tomorrow at the same time.